and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank everybody for coming this evening. Clifton is running late for tradition, but he will be here shortly. And we have a special guest who we put on first, but we don't have Brad here. Brad, you ready? Can you wait? Well, let's wait about 10-15 minutes, and okay, we'll see. Could you call Brad?
No worries.
To see if he's coming for this?
She should be here.
I just saw lights come in.
We didn't come over to obviously together.
Alrighty, while we're waiting for that, the road committee, Brad's not here at the moment. Public comments, are there any public comments at this point? Is that a yes? He's putting his head up. Somebody's coming in the door.
Oh, here's Brad.
That's not Brad.
No, Brad's just what's through
right
calling
behind me.
now.
Okay.
He's just right there. Okay.
Are there any public comments? Rose, any comments?
I had some comments about the website. I can bring them up now or under old business, whatever.
Let's wait for old business if you don't mind.
Okay.
Just remind me that we don't forget.
Okay.
Public comments, anything, Bradley? Okay, hearing none. We will close that section and come back to it if need be, and we will go to our special guest, and I will let Bradley introduce our special guest. Carl, are you gonna?
Yes, I'll Brad Ford.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were gonna give a big, you're on camera, I thought you were gonna give his title and all that good fancy stuff.
No, my name is Carl Barrett with the North Country RC&D. We do water resource planning, hydrant design, that sort of thing. Work entirely through the state, and what we're proposing here is an addition to your hazard mitigation plan, which I understand is
in process, yes.
In process, so this ends up being part of that.
Okay.
We're funded through FEMA and through the Homeland Security Emergency Management of the state. One thing I'd like you to do, please, if I can circulate this around. This is a sign, and it's something that I'm required to do. We've been in business now for about 10 years doing these all over the state, and this is the first time I've been here. So,
Excuse me, just, we are signing for whose purposes?
you're signing
For the state
record-
or for your own personal?
No, for the grant requirement, the FEMA grant requirement. All right? Is that all right?
We're in attendance and.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, so people, if you wish
In
to
other words-
sign, you may.
Yes, and this is match. This ends up being the town's portion of this.
Okay, that's fine.
All
No,
right. So what this, by the way, is a quick resource guide that tells you who we are,
Okay.
that sort of thing. There are a number of them to pass around. In addition to this, there are these which are roughly a little more elaborate. And this is an example of what we would be doing here. Now, every 5 years, is it that a hazard mitigation plan has to be approved?
Yes, or as.
And we thought it would, we made this pitch to Homeland Security Emergency Management, and they agreed with this, and so this is the third of these grant cycles that we've been through.
okay.
This is over. What you would have is a bird's eye view of the town, a description of all of the water resources, and at the very tail end of this, you have some recommendations, our recommendations to you, how you would proceed, and they sound very suspiciously like your recommendations to me. After we've looked it all over.
When you say water resources, you're talking about lakes, streams, that, or are you talking about
Whatever you would practically use to get water for firefighting purposes.
Oh, for fires, okay.
Okay? Practically use.
Okay.
So that excludes swimming pools. That excludes lakes that you can't get to that have problems with access. However, if you want to bring me to some place that has no water, which some people have done, and say, we're concerned about this is our area of concern, it's high and dry. We would recommend, part of our recommendations are include those types of places. So part of your planning would be if someone were to drop a pile of money on you, to put a cistern in there someday. Part of our recommendation is to do a needed fire flow analysis of public buildings, for instance, this one.
Okay.
That's usually an eye opener. So that's what we intend to do. Your part in this is shoe leather, and you're already expending some of it now by signing things that you work your way through this presentation. And that's about it. If you'd like to go ahead, we're prepared. And as I mentioned, all we need is a little bit of work on your part.
When you say walking through the building, what would you be referencing?
Shoe leather, I mean, and what you need to do is take me around town.
Oh, around town, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you meant you were looking at things in
No,
this
no,
building
no,
for a
no.
fire hydrant, okay.
No, but what I was referencing is what's called a needed fire flow. Needed fire flow is how much water it would take to put out a fire in this building.
Okay.
And,
Or next door, an impossible amount of water.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's usually an eye opener.
All right, now I know it, okay. How much water to put up?
Exactly.
I know we have discussed, or it's been discussed at the planning board stage of, and I don't know if it's ever happened, is putting in a thing for cistern for developments. I know I floated that out. I know in Madison they have that.
That's part, and, yeah, we've done a similar plan in Madison. That's part of our standard recommendation.
I know when I was on the planning board, I threw that out as an idea, because I lived in Madison and it was on my property, so.
Yeah. Most developers coming this way know that they need to bring some water to the product. I don't know if the development pressure is on or off. I suspect it's hovering midway, waiting for things to get.
Right, we're on the, moving north, we're on the target for when things get on the economy again, we'll be the zone that they pick as they come up Route 16.
One thing, because I'm required to do a little proselytizing here, is that I don't think that the 700 population protects you in any way. This is not the sleepy little town that you think it is. This is essentially one seamless picture. The aggregate fire loss in the United States is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. There are going to be fire deaths in the United States this year. This town, this state, will have its share. And what
Just
we-
had one this morning or last night,
Where's that?
Goffstown.
Oh, really? Fire death in Goffstown? See, I didn't even know about that. And this happens in little dribbles. And so next year, if we were to come back in the same spot, there will be some story. Hopefully it's not anything tragic, but we get our share. And being small and sort of remote there's no inoculation against this.
So when you're done with this process, what do we get?
You get something that looks just like that without the binder, unfortunately.
A written report.
Exactly. The written report ends up being part of the hazard mitigation. It ends up being one piece of this.
Does the written report, you know how these work when school districts do these types of things, all of a sudden you have a written report and now all of a sudden you have to do something?
Oh, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the tyranny of reports. Yeah. So we have to sort of be careful not to write you into a box. You know, we don't want people cursing us 10 years from now. However, there is common sense, and that's the path that we like to go on.
And the acceptance of this to weed out common sense, so in other words, you recommend one thing and we feel that is not common sense for our community.
It doesn't have to
Who
go.
rules?
Doesn't have to go in your report.
Okay.
There's a series of meetings, Bill, that we'll have with Carl, and that's part of our in-kind match to this project being done.
That's right.
So we have input all along the way as to what the end product is.
I wonder, does this put the town at risk if we don't follow the recommendations? A cistern. We don't have a cistern.
So we recommend a cistern,
And we decide we can't afford it. Now we're,
which is a common thing. In a lot of cases, you'd have a much better chance seeing the Easter Bunny
So what happens with that now?
It sits.
You made a recommendation, the town decided they couldn't afford it, we didn't do it.
On the day it becomes practical is the day it gets done. However, it sits, it hangs. Everybody agrees that it is common sense to do this. So on the day it becomes practical is the day it gets done. There was a time when there was money available. We were doing 50-50 matches on hydrants and cisterns. And believe it or not, we had to send some money back. Now, you would think that that money would have been stamped up and
Sure.
couldn't give it away. Only because people have schedules and they just cannot get to a scene on time, they can't get contractors there. That sort of thing.
Questions from the public? Tom?
My concern would be that the federal government will come up with a program, FEMA.
Yes.
That says you need this to be sufficient for firefighting protection. And the town decides they can't afford it. Then, 2 years down the road, there's a catastrophe, a tragedy, whatever, and all of a sudden we have the legal community involved who said, the federal government said you should do this, and you didn't do it, we're going to sue the town. Is this a possibility?
I think you're in that particular case, I think you're partially indemnified. However, there was a town, and I think it may have been Antrim, that had a flood. Numbers of structures went over. And they said, we're going to declare an emergency. And they got very little traction with that because they didn't have a hazard mitigation plan in place. So what you're describing already exists to a certain extent. But as far as sort of incorporating, federalizing fire service, I think
My concern is that it seems like the federal government all of a sudden is very, very easy to say, you need this, and this is going to cost you $300 million. And town of Brookfield just doesn't have it. And, you know, even they say, well, we're going to match, we'll give you half of it, we still don't have the other half. I don't want to get involved in a situation where all of a sudden somebody is telling us what we have to spend. This is New Hampshire.
well, this is, as near as I know, this represents an invitation, grade invitation to the dance. In my experience with FEMA, they've never looked at fire, residential fire, wildfire, in the same light that they look at windstorm, hurricane, a tornado, that sort of thing. But they've never quite looked at it this way. Now that they are, being a retired firefighter, and this being my chosen profession, I can tell you that I got an invitation to the dance. I intend to dance. I intend to do what is necessary to take that number that we discussed and bring it down. The consequences will fall where they will, but for right now, you know, there's a fire burning.
I don't doubt that we need more water resources to fight fire.
You may.
How much is it going to cost? That's the big.
Yeah, and the point here is that maybe you don't know what you have already. So qualifying it and quantifying it is our job here.
Right?
I think part of it too is what they'll be providing us is recommendations, and this is something you may want to consider doing. It's not, this is what you have to do.
No.
And also, if I remember correctly from years past, from a legal standpoint, if you're consciously aware of something and consciously make a decision that you can support while you make that decision, you've got a lot more leverage than if you just blow it off altogether. Now,
This is Cliff and Cam, Chairman of the Board.
How you doing? Sorry, how are you, Ted?
So I'd like to take Tom's question one step further.
Sure.
So you're dealing with FEMA at this point. Were a tragedy to happen in this town, FEMA is who the town would go to for federal funds. Is there any chance they would then refuse those funds because action wasn't taken?
I could put myself in real big trouble here. The answer is, I just don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. That's, you know, the people, I met with people from FEMA about 4 years ago
Yep.
when we first did the first of these and said, this is our model. What do you think of it? And that was the extent of our meeting. From that point on, we've been doing these using the same model, and we've never had a no. So this is one tiny piece
Okay.
of a fairly large piece of machinery, I think.
How many towns have you done?
Oh, gosh. That's an excellent question. Which is something someone says while they're thinking of it. Personally, I've looked at each site I look at, let's do it this way. I take a photo and make a small description. So I looked at the photos the other day, and there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,500 photos. So I must have done 110 times. Maybe 90, I don't know.
And they've all adopted your,
Yeah, yes.
Part of the answer to Mary Lou's question too is this becomes part of our hazard mitigation plan, which is in process right now. As long as we have the plan in place, we stand an excellent chance of getting resources from FEMA. The people that get caught are those that do not have a plan in place. Now,
That makes sense.
we've already started ours, and it's in process. We're covered.
Okay.
And the report that Carl will be doing becomes a part of that hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
now Carl, you're looking at forest fire types of things, or are you looking at individual homes that burn?
We're looking at structure, all fire,
All fires.
all fire. This is primarily slanted, from FEMA's point of view, to wildland fire. However, thinking that who could tell, it doesn't, the exposure, maybe the wildland and the cause, the structure, or the other way around, it doesn't really matter. It's-
No, I can understand, I'm just concerned of the growth of government here, now it got teamed into individual homes, that's all. This,
Oh,
it ever spreads.
yeah,
How much does this study cost?
it's all paid for.
How much
Hey,
does it cost
what-
to town?
Well, no, in,
What is,
what is your bill?
what do we,
What is your bill to do this study?
to you? Nothing.
No, what is your bill to do this, to the government or whoever's gonna pay it?
Oh, you're above my pay grade by a bit. I don't know. At one point in time, we were funded through the U.S. Forest Service,
Yeah.
all right? And they had to do an analysis of what this cost.
Yeah.
So you would compare the amount of man hours that we put in, the amount of man hours that you're putting in now, the mapping, and the analysis, and the final presentation. And they were thinking that it was somewhere around $8,000. That's a number from my memory. Don't take that to the bank. So they thought a real market value for this kind of study would be $8,000. So if you called private concern and said, map us,
Be roughly $8,000.
that's what you might expect. But that was when we did that almost 10 years ago, so. You know, the answer is I don't know.
Are
Please.
you aware of these towns that you've done?
Yes,
What the cost has been to those towns
afterward,
afterwards? In
In
other
other
words,
words,
they said,
a
we
mandate.
read your program and we think we have to do this, and this upgrade. Has it been small amounts, big amounts, varying amounts?
It's gone the other way. For instance, I invite you to call John Schlemmer, who's the chief, the fire chief in Center Harbor. All right, he took our map and our product. He said, this is a great idea. The greatest thing is sliced bread. I'm calling ISO, who is insurance service organization. They set ratings, fire protection ratings for the town. Fire protection rating for this town is,
Couldn't tell you that off the top of my head.
all right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's above 8.
Which is
Okay,
on a
so
scale
it's
of 1 to
around
10?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
8
1 being the best.
Good.
1 being the best,
Okay.
all right? And that has a direct bearing on what you pay for home insurance. I have a cabin in Maine that's no bigger than this room. I pay more for that, for my home insurance there, than I do for my house in New Hampshire, just because of that reason. Well, in Center Harbor, he was able to lower his ISO rating using partially using our plan. I'm not saying that that this is all gilded nicely, but I do know that you're able to move in that direction with this sort of thing. The analysis outweighs whatever detriment you might accrue.
But to lower their rating was a big cost to the town. That's what I'm saying, is it just,
No, I mean, just shoe leather on the chief's part. He got on the phone and he got me back there and we certified a hydrant and we did a few things and it saved a lot of money. It's saving people money today.
okay.
Not to mention that part about being just a little bit safer.
But most of the towns you work with, I assume, have their own fire department.
No. Yeah, most. Okay.
So I mean,
There
we're
are a few-
probably at a disadvantage, even though we're very comfortable with and very proud of the service that Wakefield provides us, and feel that we were living in another area, we could be just as far from a fire station that it is right here from Wakefield.
Yeah.
I would hope we're not penalized, and I'm wondering if we went through this, all of a sudden, we're gonna be penalized because, you know, we were number 5, and when you did your work, we all of a sudden are number 9. Does that rating go to somebody that they're gonna use that against us?
That hasn't happened in years, I know. Could it happen? I have absolutely no idea. Not even into the blue.
No, I was gonna ask, because we use Wakefield, how does that affect us? Because we contract with Wakefield for our fire services.
Yeah, it hasn't affected Groton. Groton's the same.
Now, has Wakefield gone through this?
No, we haven't worked with Wakefield. Madison, worked with Madison. What's north of you?
Possibly.
Oscar Corner some time ago. I think
Okay.
it's separate. parties.
Down Island, Ossipee Corner. Even though Wakefield hasn't gone through this, they've gone the next step. They now require cisterns in their developments. And again, what Carl's report will do, not only identifying our shortcomings, but also will identify resources that we may not even know we have, or help further explain what we do have. The insurance industry works on actuary tables and what they think isn't necessarily reality. So we can hopefully provide them a better picture than what they think now. In some of it, no matter what you have, it's giving you X number of miles from the fire station, you X number of miles from a fire hydrant. Those things are given that no report is going to change.
So would your recommendation be do this?
Yes, it's likely to be a very good component to the hazmat plan.
How long does this take?
You probably have our finish in about midsummer.
A lot of it's just boilerplate.
Yes. The mapping itself, a couple of days at most. I'm assuming that we have somewhere around 20 sites. That's average. I made the mistake of telling someone, this is your study, you show me what you want to show me. Everywhere. Every little creek, every little ripple, every little... But we did find some really amazing things.
Conservation Commission or something?
Now, do you recommend, out of this study, if we don't have adequate fire pond coverage or stream flow coverage, would you be making recommendations to add fire ponds?
Usually the recommendations go in level of difficulty. So someone shows me a pond right here and a road right there. So we can install a hydrant right here, very minimal. Those are the ones we look at first. And we'll solve for that and world peace will be easy. Then the next ones are the ones that are a little bit hard, a little bit further away, a little bit more lift. Then we recommend those next. And we usually say investigate the possibility of putting in a hydrant here. We also recommend first and foremost those that are broken, fix them. Because the public drives by it, they have bragging rights. I have a hydrant in my neighborhood. Well, if it's broken, it's something you should probably take care of.
How long's
And then the final ones are places that require cisterns. We know that cisterns are expensive. So that is, do it when you can.
Any more questions?
As I said, I don't believe this blind you to anything.
You don't believe. I don't believe it's
Well,
gonna be
I don't see how it can bind us to anything if we don't, if there's no contract to sign other than the agreement, right, to do this. There's no contract in the agreement. Is there anything in there that says that we have to follow the recommendations?
No.
Okay, so if that's the case, then it's not, the findings are just a fact finding for us.
Let's see,
They could save us some money, could make some recommendations that could save houses down the road, but, you know, we would work at our pace and within our budget to build things up to the point where they would be financially reasonable to do.
Yes.
At what times we could do them.
that's right, a little here, a little there, what's the saying, and in a while you'll have a file.
Something come out quick?
Might be a multi-phase question. How big is the average cistern you might require?
Yeah. 30,000 gallons is the short answer, okay? So it's 250 gallons a minute for 2 hours, that's the proof.
It's a sizable tank. So in a town like this, if you have a recommendation to put that, let's just say Moose Mountain Road, the town's got, no, hey, believe me, I'm not for it. So now you also have to think, you're gonna have to purchase some land, or have somebody donate some land to put this on.
Yes. And you have to think into the future too, so someone comes and puts in a...
Be cheaper to dig a pond.
If the water's there,
Have you
There's
dealt
water everywhere here.
yeah,
with Brookfield?
yeah,
Have you dealt with the town of Alton?
yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, we did this same study.
And what was the reason they dropped their cistern requirement?
Have no idea.
Because they no longer require
Not a
that?
clue, I don't have a clue. And that's unusual because most of the things going in there attract developers that know their business. They're very savvy for the most part.
Something else?
If the town would have a report from you that says the town of Brookfield really could benefit from 2 cisterns here or there, is this something that you or we can take to FEMA and say, how much federal money can we get to do this?
There was a day that was possible.
You said was. I don't like that.
Welcome to the new economical times.
Well, the last time that happened was in Warren. They put in five hydrants on a match, 50-50 match. And I designed 5 hydrants for them. And it was on the tail end of the recommendations that we made. So they went to FEMA with a pre-made shopping list and said, this is what we like. And so it went from planning dollars to program dollars. And I don't think that you can make that jump now.
And remember, when you're dealing with federal monies for grants and so forth for like this, they also look at the town's income mediums. And if you're above a certain level, it disqualifies you for certain programs and grants. We've ran into that in the past when we've, gone to different things that they put on, like the Department of Agriculture a couple of years ago put on one. And the town of Brookfield, just because of our income medium, did not qualify. So,
But my question was, is there a possibility that you're saying slim to none?
Yes. In my experience, let me just qualify that.
Yeah.
There could be someone from FEMA saying, oh, yes, we have this program. I don't know.
2 more quick questions. Since you've designed these, can you give the audience an idea on how big a 30,000 gallon cistern is? And
Half this room.
Half this room?
Yeah,
height, width, and
And
length?
that's pretty big. Maybe a third of this room. It's pretty big.
and
You have some idea of how big it is.
oh, I do.
Yeah.
And how about the cost of them?
60 grand?
Materials only?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say it depends on who's putting it in and where you put it in.
Right.
Well, like I was gonna say,